The third topic or point, in this upward musicianship is consistency. Going back to the first point, what you put in is what you're going to get out. You can't just expect, to the day before service or the night before service or whatever to just, all of a sudden start being super spiritual and okay, God's going to move, You have to be consistent throughout the week, when no one's watching except God. You have to be consistent, because when we go in to give God this worship, He's going to know your heart. He's going to know your worship. And if you bring an unworthy sacrifice, He's not going to accept it. So consistency is great when it comes to this upward musicianship, and it's imperative. So keep that in mind. Point number 4 is your passion when it comes to your upward musicianship. I, for the longest time, had a hard time showing passion because I was so afraid that people were going to take it as like a sense of pride. Whether that was the way I worshipped if I was on guitar or what. Mostly involving being on the platform and how I moved. I used to be just a rock. I'm just staring at my pedal board or my guitar, the worship leader, and I would not move. And, it wasn't a bad thing. But I remember the first couple services where I felt the freedom to worship while playing. And after that, one of the services, a really close friend of mine came up to me and he said, "Braxton, every time I would look up and I would see you worshiping, I would go crazy." He says, "If just seeing you up there with everything going on, if you can worship, then what's stopping me from being down here on the altar and worshiping? I'm literally just standing here. You're up there playing and you have to think about everything else." And he said, "Thank you for leading." And I was like, whoa. Like, I didn't even think that was like a thing. Passion can be also defined in your playing and your devotion and your commitment to playing and how you play and how you worship, and so just be passionate. As worship leaders, musicians, whatever we are, if we're not passionate, then no one else is going to be passionate. That's the sad thing about people today, is that we could sing the greatest songs with the greatest anointing and have the greatest moves of God, but if we're not doing it, then they're not going to do it. So be passionate, be committed, be devoted, and just show that energy, because God's done great things for us, and so just show it. The last point of upward musicianship is discernment. And I kind of, thinking and praying about this, really felt strongly about putting this in there, because there are those moments as musicians where it's just not good to play. Not necessarily to let the song, breathe or have the free moments, where it's just silence, but just not playing at all. Sometimes when people see you sacrificing the spot of playing for, an altar to go pray at or to go pray with someone, that can speak so much louder than any song, any worship moment, anything that you could have done. So there are those moments where when you're leading, God has got something so perfect for you. So the last kind of point or topic of musicianship and being a worship leader as a guitar player or whatever is the outward musicianship. This is the relationships with people. And like I said earlier, the sad part is if you don't do what they want, and if you're not passionate they won't, you have to have a relationship with people. I can't tell you how many times someone has been off in the service, and it was because they had aught with somebody or just were angry. It's incredible what kind of a atmosphere you can set just based off your relationship with the people in the congregation. And we have to be careful of this, because we're kind of living in a glass house. If you're playing on a worship team consistently, people are going to look at you differently. They're going to kind of micro-analyze everything that you're doing, and some people are going to be out to get you, and so you got to be careful with your relationships. So the first one, and there's 5 R's. We're going to talk about relationship, respect. We're going to talk about relationship, respect, response, retain, and return. So the first one, relationship. This is kind of self-explanatory. Just as musicians, as worship leaders, as people in the church, have relationships with your band team, with your singing crew, with your sound team, with your pastor's team. Just have a relationship. If they know you and they are comfortable and they know who you are and they know a lot about you and they're close to you, when they see you leading in worship, they're going to follow, they're going to help, they're going to be unified. Unity within the church is imperative. It makes everything smoother. We have to be unified. The second one, respect. You know, we want respect as musicians, especially as a guitar player. It never fails. They're going to turn the amps down. You're not going to be heard out in the house. They're probably not going to like what you're playing. And so if you have this respect for somebody, if you respect your sound man, even if he doesn't do what you want, you're not just going to lash out at him. So if you have respect for your worship leader, when she asks you to do something or needs you to help do something, it's just going back to unity. Respect people, respect their position, respect what they're doing, respect what they come from or who they are, you know. And again, this is kind of like off of relationship. When you have a relationship with somebody, you can respect who they are and where they come from. So just respect. So like the third point in this topic of outward musicianship is response. And this kind of jumps back to the other two, you know, respect and relationship. Having a good idea of what it is to have a respectful and kind and professional response to situations, whether that's how we talk or how we approach them or how you act, can save the day. It can save any situation, good or bad, if something happens, because there's going to be problems. So as a musician, as a worship leader, as a team member, focusing on your response will help maintain so many relationships with people. And if you learn the right times to approach the right things with the right idea, it'll help you in so many ways. And this can be achieved and learned through experience and through just wisdom of not saying anything, which kind of leads into the next point, which is refraining or refrain. And sometimes it's just not good to fight a battle. It's just not the right moment. Learn what battles it is good to fight and when to fight them. Because, you know, you don't just want to be the floor mat. Don't let people walk on you. But learn when to stand up for yourself. Learn when to be a voice. So yeah, refrain. That was point number 4. And then our last one. Now this one's kind of different from the others. It's not necessarily dealing with like relationships and how to maintain those. It's more about everything that you've learned as a musician. Just like I'm talking about our inward and upward musicianship, it's about what we do with this now. You know, obviously you're playing, you're serving on a team, you're helping them out, but there comes a point in time where I feel like every musician has information to give back. And this becomes that moment. It's that time where it's like, oh, everything's led up to this. I could not tell you how boring and unmeaningful my life would be if I hadn't started finding time to teach and invest and help. It's so rewarding as a musician, as a worship leader, to see the look on these people's faces, these kids' faces, or whoever I'm working with when they figure something out, or I'm able to help them grasp onto this thought, you know, and just everything that I've learned, whether it's, you know, technique or playing or, you know, ideas or anything involving playing, being able to give that back, it's so rewarding. So as a musician, find those moments where you can do that. And that, I think, can be the crux of our outward musicianship. Yes, focusing on relationships is important and imperative, but when you can find moments to give everything back, you know, there's just this happiness that you get. It makes you strive to be better. So focus on that. Focus on that idea of returning it, giving it back. So we've talked about inward musicianship, upward musicianship, and outward musicianship. And I hope that this was in some ways helpful to you. You know, maybe there's some things you could work on. There's definitely things I could work on. Things I'm not doing perfect. I'm still not perfect. This is just things that I've kind of developed in my head, and I'm happy that I get to share them with you. But It's been awesome. It's been fun. I've definitely enjoyed this talk. Keep it real. God bless, and have a great day. Talk to you later.